Alrighty. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Fully Managed Podcast, the podcast where we discuss marketing and business tips to help assist you on your business journey. I'm your host, Shannon, Penchi's Partnership Coordinator, and I'm joined here today with a very special guest, Donte Ledbetter from VSCO. Thank you so much for coming on with me today.
Thank you for having me.
I appreciate it. Is it a nice day by you? It's like kind of rainy here.
It's pretty chilly in New York, but it's very sunny.
Oh, well, that's nice at least. Yeah, the wind in the city is a fun time. I'm thinking about opening my windows, but I think I missed the gap where it was a nice time to open the windows, and now it's like 40 degrees.
It kind of just skipped over hoodie weather and went to like coat weather.
Yeah, it was kinda mean. I hate when that happens. Fall is so short now.
Yeah.
It's fine though, it'll be warm in like 2 weeks,
Mhm.
70 degrees again because the weather's just unpredictable this time. So, first, can you just one kind of describe how you got to this point and just like maybe a fun little fact about you or just like your professional career up to this point would be great just so the audience can get a little.
So I spent 10 years in marketing, specifically tech marketing. So started out in the B2B space, working in ad tech and marketing tech, then transitioned to the consumer side in 2017, working in fintech, working in ed tech, and now working for VSCO, which is a photo editing app, but also a community for photographers. And I've worked for startups mainly my whole career. I've never worked for a big company. I'm more of like a get after it person because I have that startup background. So I love tech. I love startups. Yeah, and I've done everything in marketing. I've done CRM. I've done social and content marketing. And now I'm in this really interesting space in product marketing where I get to launch new features and products for our customers and really get to understand the business, understand the product, and also understand just the industry as well. So I would say this is probably my best job. This is the best headspace I've been in my career in terms of just like being really excited about my work.
Oh, that's awesome. I love hearing that. So, I actually just talked to someone about this. Do you think that startups helped you to kind of prepare you for a job like this? Because I know that being in a startup can really, because of the amount of transparency between like everything going on, because I feel like a larger corporation, it kind of like is more, oh, it's this person's job, so you don't hear about it kind of thing. Do you think that startups kind of helped you kind of round your brain well enough around different sections of marketing that prepared you for right now?
Yeah, I would say like my first job, like I basically did everything. I was the first marketer. I was the only marketer, and I basically
Many hats.
did marketing. So I had many hats, but it was a blessing because I had experience with everything. And sometimes some people say like being a jack of all trades isn't good, but early on in your career is really good to get that experience in all functions of marketing. And at a bigger company, you might not have that opportunity. You might be sort of pigeonholed into sort of one lane or one function in marketing. Whereas at a startup, you have to do everything basically, especially if you're the only marketer and you have to get your hands dirty right away. And I like that. I like that about startups because again, it really builds that experience that you can take to other companies, other bigger companies further down your career. So, I bias is startups, and like I always recommend that people get that experience. It can be a lot of work. Obviously, you'll have late nights. You might have to work on weekends, especially if you're working for a really high growth startup that's trying to find product market fit. But it's worth it because you will have that experience. And I'm somebody who, I like autonomy. I'm somebody who actually can like work independently because I had that experience at a startup early on, so, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's really nice. I also agree with that sentiment of that, especially when you're younger and getting into it, it's really, even though it might be difficult and you're not, depending on, I guess, also the type of brain that you have, because I know some people doing a bunch of things is the worst thing ever for them because they're not, um, organized in the same way as they probably want to be in a specific position. But I think for marketing, it's a really helpful space to be in if that's how your brain works, because the more things that you get to experience, the more you're familiar if something does come up in the future. Like yeah, maybe your role might narrow down the line, but you still have the ability to see into other worlds, so to speak, and understand what's going on there and still include them into your campaign or strategy, even if it's not exactly I guess it's more inspiration than anything else because even if your field is narrowed or your job is narrowed, you still have these different things that you can pull from that are not just from that exact thing.
And the great thing is, because you've had experience with all these functions, you get to really figure out what you actually like and what you don't like. And you get to figure that out sooner rather than later. So like I realized I would say 4 years or 5 years into my career, they're like, okay, I kind of like the strategic side of, marketing, and I kind of started exploring product marketing. Because I realized like I didn't like doing social media a lot. I didn't like doing like paid advertising a lot, but I really like being heads down on the product, being in the weeds of the business, and combining the 2, and then also being in the weeds of our customer base, running surveys, talking to customers. Like, I like being in the middle of all of it, and product marketing was actually that perfect function to do all of that. So, I realized that halfway through, my career already, and I've been doing it for a while now. So, that's the benefit of, like, getting all of that experience early on.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's nice to be able to find and you might it can always change, so no, you might get bored one day, but it's really nice to be able to find out what you like earlier on in your career. I feel like a lot of people will spend a really long time in a space that they're, maybe not the best at, or maybe they're good at it, but they don't enjoy it, and, it's nice to be able to find out earlier on what you do like, and, that's always it always can change, but, at least for the time being, it's nice to be able to enjoy what you do.
Sure, yeah.
Did you go into VSCO having or being excited about any new ideas when you were kind of seeking that? Or I don't know if it was a role that,
Mhm.
you didn't know that you didn't plan on getting or, I don't know the story behind that, but I was wondering if there was anything.
So, like, for me, like, job hunting is very strategic in that, like, I like to apply to jobs that I have an interest in number 1, right? So, like, if I interested in the product, I have to be somewhat interested in the product, so you'll never find me, like, working for construction or anything, like, I don't know much about the industry, I don't know much about, what goes on. But, when I apply for jobs, I say, "Listen, do I understand the product?" Turns out, like, I was a Visco user before. I'm also a photographer, so, like, it was sort of like a perfect scenario. But even in past roles, for example, when I was at Code Academy, I had learned how to code on Code Academy before I joined Code Academy. It's awesome. I was already a customer of the product before I joined the company. I was already a customer of Disco before I joined the company. Even before Code Academy, when I was at Stash, I understood the importance of finance, the importance of investing. So I kind of have a personal stake in kind of every company that I'm joining, if that makes any sense. And that kind of, just like drives me to be excited about the opportunity. But like usually I don't join companies where like I just don't have no interest in.
Mhm.
Because, you know, there has to be a drive, there has to be a motivation to actually do the work. And because I like the product and I understand the product, there's, like, inherent motivation to actually do the work.
It is very funny because, I didn't even realize that I've been using VSCO since I think I was 12.
Mhm.
I It was, like, a very big thing when I was younger, and
Yeah.
I do really love it because, I think that my entire life from then to now is recorded through my profile, so it's really nice because it's the one place that I also refuse to delete things from, like, even if I have, some ex-boyfriend on there, I'm like, "No, no, these are memories, these are my life, I'm gonna keep it." It's, like, the only place that I don't delete anything on.
Yeah, I don't take a few pictures of my designs.
They're crazy, they're just like, 1 or 2, not but yeah, it's really nice because, I don't know, it's just the one place that I've, made a set point of like, "Oh, these are" they're all aesthetically pleasing because that's, the I feel like that's what it's meant for almost, but it's also, it's nice to have a collection of memories, kind of like a scrapbook, that, I've never touched.
Well, like I told you, I'm a photographer. I've been doing photography for 15 years, and you know, pictures are powerful. I'm somebody who, like, I was a VSCO user, and the reason was because I was sort of anti-Instagram, and like no shade, towards Instagram. I'm somebody who really appreciates the art of photography, and sort of the technical aspect of it, of like shooting the right picture, having the right aperture and shutter speed and things like that. So I appreciate that part of it. And when I was on Instagram years ago, I don't have Instagram anymore. I got rid of it like 6 years ago. But when I was on Instagram, it transformed from a picture platform to a social engagement platform, and then the algorithms came in, and then that it makes sense, like, that's how they drive up engagement and make money, but I wanted something that was more pure, and that's why I joined VSCO as a customer years ago, and it's still like that, actually, like, to this day, VSCO is still that platform that's, like, very pure, very for creators and photographers, not so hell-bent on trying to drive up engagement, trying to get people to react to notifications and things like that, so that's what I like about it.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. I kind of like that there's a very minimal social aspect to it, like the chat or whatever it might be. And I think now there's commenting. I noticed that recently.
And yeah. Yeah.
Yes. Um, I do really like that because I don't know, I as everyone that probably uses Instagram, I definitely custom curate what's going on there in a way that's very uh I don't know, for people to enjoy. It's for other people, and not for me, and I think VSCO is something that's, really beautiful in the way of, like, you put whatever you want on there, and also it's, anyone can find your VSCO by using your link, I suppose, but no one is looking up my VSCO link, no one like, no one so it's kind of private, and I know that I could probably make it private, like, actually, I should familiarize myself with this one. Um, but yeah, so it's nice because it's also like mine, in the way that, there is engagement, but it's, people that I don't know, and that's actually fine with me because I'm those aspects of my life, like, I don't really care that these strangers see this because it's just beautiful photography and not something that's, what's going on in my life.
Yeah. Yeah, when it comes to social media in general, like, I'm pretty private person, and, like, it actually makes me uncomfortable that, like, I get to see people's private life on Instagram because they have public profile. I'm just the way I know way too much about you right now, and, like, I don't have. So, like, I've always been, like, a strategic user of social media, like, I'm not very active on a lot of social media platforms. I love Reddit for some reason, like, Reddit is kind of a cesspool, but, like, it's really engaging. It'd be fun to
But
or else bit, yeah, but yeah, Instagram, like, I kinda just stay away from it. Disco, I love, obviously, because I'm a photographer, so yeah.
yeah. Yeah, you'd be like, "No, I really don't like it." That'd be kinda crazy. But yeah, no, it's, I really do enjoy it for what it is, and, I do like that it's not heavily influenced by, um, you know, like, how another social media would be. It's more I like what you said, pure, because it is kind of I post things on it, and I'm not looking for engagement. I'm
Yeah.
just doing it because I like it, and maybe it might get engagement from people that I don't know, and that's fine. Um but yeah, it's just a really nice place to put things.
Thing is, working in tech and working in marketing, like, I know sort of the mechanisms that a lot of these companies use to sort of drive engagement with notifications and things like that. So, I kinda get torn where it's just like, you know, I understand what they're trying to do and trying to get you back how they're trying to get you back into the app. And, like, I know how to avoid it, but, like, I see some other people use these apps, and I'm just like, "They got you. They got you," like, I'm able to avoid it because I understand what's going on behind the scenes, so it's there's definitely things that can be done to, like, for example, help people, um, use it in a healthy way, but I just don't think that some sometimes it conflicts with the business interest, if that makes any sense.
No, that completely makes sense. I was actually surprised about them adding the comment thing because I didn't realize that that was something that I never thought of that would have been I've definitely received messages from strangers about photos because the messaging thing has been there probably I don't know how long. But the commenting thing was something that, I was surprised about. Not that it's a bad thing, I don't think, but it's definitely something that I noticed as something that was very different that they haven't done, before. Maybe I just updated the app and it's been there for a long time.
I think VSCO, what we're trying to do is, like, actually, like, build community
Yeah, and I like that.
first, because like, photography is like a lonely it could be a lonely, uh, sort of profession, or where you're just doing your thing, you have your own wedding photography business, but you're not really talking to other photographers. So, like, trying to build that community for them, is something that, we're trying to do, and, like, adding, like, discussion functionality is, like, one of the ways we're doing that. But yeah, like, nowadays, like, platforms are all about community. Again, that's the reason I love subreddit is because you have these mini Reddit because you have these mini communities, which are subreddits where, like, okay, maybe that subreddit, like, maybe Wall Street Bets is, like, really horrible, but, like, you can go on this other subreddit where, like, things are actually pretty good and motivational and things like that. So, having these, like, sub communities and communities, is really I think it's something, number 1, that a lot of marketers and, like, tech companies in general are trying to, like, build nowadays, because that's something that people value, especially, like, younger people, so
Yeah, I think that's beautiful. I think it's very there's definitely a loneliness epidemic, as they say, generally, but I think, uh, yeah, photography, definitely makes sense to have that as an issue, and I think that being able to create those communities is really lovely, especially for a niche category of thing, but also the idea that photography can really be for anyone. Like there's some people take it in or more serious light, or some people take it in a lighter light, but it's something that, that now that we have phones, everyone can do to a level, and it's nice to be able to share that and create communities out of that, and I actually think that's really lovely. I also love Reddit for that reason. It's, like, so awesome. Sometimes it's a crapshoot of diabolical
yeah.
individuals, but sometimes it's a really great wholesome place, which is so funny. It's just, yeah, I guess, unfiltered, opinions is, so interesting to view. Actually, okay, that actually gets me onto the point of so how much do you think psychology plays in consumer-based marketing? Because that's I think I hear psychology being seeded into marketing very often, and I definitely think that that's something that's on like you can't escape it because you're thinking about how someone thinks.
Well, it's very important, number 1. I always like to say that, like, consumers are very complex. Sometimes we're even, like, hypocrites in a way. Like, sometimes, like, for example, like, I run surveys throughout my whole career, and, like, people will tell you one thing but do another. And you're just like, "Wait, in the survey, you told me you like this thing, but then, like, we offered it to you, and now you're not like it." So people in general, humans are very complex, and that's why you have to understand, number 1, what motivates people, and kinda like what biases people have. So it's critical to marketing. You in my opinion, you can't really be a good marketer unless you understand the psychology of human beings, and that's something that you'll continuously learn over time. Like, no one's gonna be perfect at the psychology of humans, like, I'm not perfect at it. I'm constantly learning more and more about consumers even 10 years into my career, learning how people behave, learning what drives people. And then not only does psychology change, but also what goes on around us changes, right? Culture changes, politics, things like that. And that affects what people do and how people behave. So it's a lot. It's a whole field, obviously. And like trying to merge that with like the tactics of marketing, that's the hard part about marketing. People always like to think like marketing is easy. Like it looks easy, right? Oh, you just like write some emails or like some social posts and like that's call it a day. But like trying to actually drive change for your business and make it mutually beneficial for your business and for your customers, that's hard. Because again, you don't people are complex and like it's not going to be as clear cut. You have all these factors that go into whether somebody buys the product or not. You have competitors, you have your psychology, there's personal circumstances. It's a lot, and it's very hard to drive results. If it was easy, I'd be a multimillionaire. A lot of other marketers would be millionaires, like, but it's not easy.
No, I definitely understand that. I think because marketing is kind of everywhere, I think people think that it's something that's kind of easy or like self-explanatory. And so sure, parts of it are, if you understand humans to a level that's not, I mean, people are different. So, you can't fine tune psychology to cater to everyone because everyone is different and you can't there's not a cookie cutter way of um selling something or convincing someone to want to do something. Uh but I think there's also something to say about when people can reach out to a large group of people that are all different and still somehow, get to them. And that's something that is actually really interesting, I think, about VSCO is, as mentioned earlier, that photography is something that is very vast and something that someone like everyone can kind of get involved in nowadays.
Mhm.
How do you kind of create a way of marketing something to such a large group of people?
Mm. Well, I think for VSCO, like, we like to say, like, everyone's a creator, 'cause, like, that's how we talk about our customers and our users. So, like you said, like, photography is accessible to everyone, because of phones, and at VSCO, we want to create a platform where people can, like, really tap into the creative side of that and not just, like, the social engagement part of it. So, photography is accessible to everyone. We approach it differently, where it's just not about engagement. It's more about just the art of it, and just sharing, your art basically. So it's more of a art. I would say it's more of an artistic platform than anything,
Mm.
more than a social platform. And everyone's artistic. We all are creative. Some people don't think they're creative because they haven't done anything creative in their lives, but, like, we all have that ability to be creative. And, VSCO, like, we want to help people do that in a visual way with, photography, with pictures. Um, and yeah, so I think we're just trying to tap into the creativity in everyone, which everyone has, basically. And it's more accessible because of smartphones and really pretty nice cameras now, so,
Yeah, they're just getting better and better on the iPhone, it's crazy.
yeah. I still use, like, I mean, I use a mirrorless camera now, but sometimes I use my iPhone, like, even this year, for example, I did a project where I only used my iPhone to take pictures. I didn't use, like, actual real camera. And it's fascinating, what the technology can do nowadays, especially with, like, what Apple has done with the iPhone. But I'm still, like, a photography purist, like, I still like to use a camera when I'm doing really serious photography, so, yeah.
No, I can understand that. As someone that has never owned a real camera other than a phone, which is insane. Maybe like a digital camera really way back when. Um, I have no gauge of anything surrounding that, but I do see some gorgeous photography from some of my friends that do use, that still use cameras that are not in a phone. And, it's something that's really fascinating to me. I'm just, anything that involves technology or buttons or, any buttons, not for me. I am so it's actually so funny. I built my PC, but,
Oh, right.
I can't talk to anyone about it because
Uh
I forgot all of the elements.
Always been a tech dude, like, even back in the day, well, I act like I'm not that old, but, like, so I was always into computers, I was always into, like, gadgets. So when I had my first computer, I would say the year 2000. I had, like, a compact, which is like a, company, like, went out of business, but it was like a compact that had, like, Windows 98 on it. And then Microsoft came out with Windows XP, I would say around 2001, so I was, like, 10 years old, and I wanted Windows XP, I had Windows 98, so what I would do was, I actually went to my friend's house, and he had Windows XP on his computer, and I, like, took a floppy disk back when floppy disks were a thing. I took a floppy disk, like, I put it into his computer, and I tried to, like, take all the Windows XP files off his computer and put it on my floppy disk, and then went home and put it into my computer just so I can use Windows XP. It didn't work because that's not how you do it, Um, I ended up getting Windows XP, but I was so desperate. I've always been like an early adopter when it came to, technology and software, so I was so desperate to get Windows XP, but I was so happy when I finally got it. But yeah, I've always been into software, so that's why it was kinda natural for me to end up in tech, because I was just like, "This is what I've always been interested in," so.
I have not. I it's really funny. I built my PC because I crashed my laptop playing, putting too much mods on my video games that I would play. And that's the only reason why I had any motivation to build this. But I understand relatively the Windows issue because I I just stole a key from Reddit, download onto my computer and someone like a flash drive from someone else's Windows to it's you don't
Wait, how long did it take you to build your PC?
it should take and many people told me, like, maybe a week. It took me 6 months. But to be honest, I was buying the parts slowly, so that was a big part of it, but then it's yeah. Can put oh god, everything so many YouTube videos. Those are great though. They're really helpful. You can do everything. You don't have to know anything about doing it, and you can do everything through just watching YouTube tutorials. I swear. I am the least technologically savvy person. I can't remember any of the parts in my computer because 'cause they're all numbers and letters, and I don't know how anyone remembers any of that. But it's very funny. But yeah, for going back to creativity, very funny. Um, I've always told my boss he'll, ask me to, like, create the name for a podcast that we're doing or something like that, and I will tell him, "I am the least creative person that you'll ever meet ever. I can't create these, like, I can't make names for things, like, you have to do it for me." But I think that there's something to say about, creativity because I think it really is a kind of completely subjective. No
Mhm,
one is I don't just think of creativity as something that's artistic, because I think that's what most people do believe, and I think that, you could have, like, a science or mathematically geared brain, and that doesn't make you any less creative than someone who maybe is more artistic.
mm,
Um, I am not artistic at all. I love art, but I get bad at it. Um, and, I think it's really nice to have a space where VSCO is something that's very easy to use and navigate, and I think it's really lovely because I think someone that doesn't feel like they're creative can use that app
mm,
and feel that they are because, they can create something beautiful, that, maybe they took that picture and they were like, "This doesn't look good," and then, they do some things on this app and they're like, "Oh, wow, I really like this, and I think I, made something really nice," and that's such a beautiful thing to be able to make people who don't feel like they're creative,
mhm.
creative.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I would say, like, even, like, on VSCO, we have our presets, which, we have the best presets in the world. Um, and sometimes you'll take a picture and, like, it doesn't look good, then you slap a preset on it, and then it looks good. But, a lot of people think that, adding filters to pictures, like, this is a bad thing now because, like, a lot of people would do it for their portraits and like, "Oh, I slapped a filter on it, now I look good, look like Kardashian or whatever." But, like, it's more about looking at pictures in a different way, because you may look at it one way, like, when you first take it, but then, like, change the color of it and it kinda looks different. You're like, "Well, that's a different point of view." Like, so, like, a preset is a different point of view. That's basically how you should look at it. And sometimes I'll shoot pictures and like I don't like it, and then like I do something to it editorial wise. I'm just like, actually, I kind of like it now, or I'll just look at it a different way. So that's kind of how you can look at presets. Is like you're just looking at something from a different point of view, essentially. Um, s- People adding filters to their portraits, like, listen, up. Sure, I don't need filters, but like, yeah.
No, I mean, I really like that you think about it like that, well, because I think it's very silly to, die on that hill of like, "Oh, okay, this is not real photography because you edited it," but at the same I there has been a slew of different cameras that have been created throughout many, many years since photography was invented. And those all, even though they don't have filters on them per se, they are not the same as you looking at something and then taking a photograph of it. They are completely different because there are different lenses, there are different perspectives
Yeah.
of doing something, and I think that is the equivalent of that. It's like you take something with a different camera, and that's considered photography, but if you take a picture with your camera and put a filter on it, that's not, because
Mhm.
it's something that's been edited, but I don't necessarily believe that.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say, like, everyone's is a photographer, but I kinda also wanna be careful with that too because there are people who, like, really practice the art of
Exactly, they deserve to have that.
everyone can take pictures and take beautiful pictures. There's some people who obviously, like, earn money from it, and they've been doing it for a while, they studied it, so I think we have to still respect those people.
Of course.
And now with AI is like, you know, people you see many different pictures and you don't know if what's real, what's fake. And yeah, it's creating problems in terms of people constantly questioning the value of photographers. Photographers will always be valuable. And you're not gonna like hire AI to do your wedding photos and things. Robots will like come in, like, photographers will still remain valuable, but like, people are just starting to question it now because of AI. Yeah.
Yeah, that is a very complicated thing, especially, yeah, in all artistic forms. I would say obviously not like sculptures because AI can't do that yet. But yeah, any kind of digital art form is something that's very me it's messy, now that AI has been involved. I think, I try not to look at AI super negatively, as a general sense because I know, especially with marketing, and it's a very useful tool, but I like that it is a tool and not something that is a replacement for a person, because it's nice that it's helpful, but it's, yeah, we don't know what's real sometimes anymore. I think that, and it does take away the years or even lives of people that have dedicated themselves to a craft. Uh, and I think that, I don't know. I think that there's complications to it because, some AI might not ever be able to do it like that person, and I think that that's why I agree with you that I don't think they'll ever be, replaced, but I think I don't know, it's a tricky
Mhm.
subject because it does stink that, it's something that sometimes you don't know what is what or what is a real person or what is AI, and, I don't know, for art specifically, that's something that, does bug me or make me feel a little pessimistic, um, but yeah.
Yeah. I think in terms of AI and marketing, I'd say marketers should embrace it as a tool, like you said. There are some functions in marketing and just in general that there may be some risks when it comes to AI replacing those functions, right? But I think that's only from companies that are going to rely too much on AI, right? So it's just like
I agree.
some companies rely on AI for copywriting or copywriting on, like, websites and things like that, and, like, you can do that, but, like, that copy might be really crap, right? Because like, ChatGPT is only gonna give you, like, based some stuff based on, like, all of the other copy it's learned, but as a person, you can really understand the target market, you can understand the problems the business has, in a very intimate way that AI can't. So you can write copy that's really sort of effective, whereas AI is just gonna give you some predominantly generic stuff. Um, so yes, like some companies will rely too much on AI to the point where they start replacing copywriters and things like that. But what they're gonna find out is that like it's probably not gonna be as effective as actually hiring a copywriter to like understand your business, understand your customer. So that's the unfortunate part. Some businesses who don't have a lot of resources are going to rely heavily on AI, which I think is fine. Like, listen, if you can't hire a bunch of like full-time copywriter or marketers, you have to do
What you
as
gotta do.
much as you can with the tools you have. But if you have the resources, like, don't be a fool, like hire the right people, and like your business will be better off because of it. So it is a fine line. I mean, I'm an advocate for AI personally. Like, I use it especially when I'm coding. It helps a lot with coding. But I do use it sometimes to like just generate ideas for like campaigns and things like that. So yeah, I don't rely heavily on it. I still try to use my brain. So
Yeah, no, I tried. That was why I think when it began, I was very I don't know if fearful was really the right word for it because I wasn't like, but um I think I was just really wary about using it because I am really someone that doesn't like to rely on certain tools to replace thinking processes. Because I'm very, even when I'm like having a debate with a friend and I can Google the answer and we can just quickly figure out what it is, I'd rather kind of work through a problem because I think that once I train my brain to not work through a problem, then I won't be, as I'll be rusty at a much earlier age if I
yeah,
can just figure something out myself. And I think that's something that people should consider when using AI as or as a replacement for something that a human can do much better. Is that you're not now you're just used to using this tool, but you're not used to interacting with a human that can do this probably much better.
yeah. Like even for my job personally, like I know some people who will, like, use AI to write marketing briefs, right, for campaigns and things like that, and you could do that, but, like, I still like to write out my briefs myself because, again, I like exercising I like going through the motions, exercising my brain, and, like, really just understanding what I'm doing, and, like, trying to outsource that work to I feel like it's gonna make me brain dead. Like, I'm just not gonna, like there's a muscle memory that you have by doing the
Mhm.
work. And when you start outsourcing these tasks to AI, it's like, what good what good are you basically, you know what I mean? So,
Yes.
I still like going through the work. I like writing briefs myself. Even if I can outsource some of it to AI, like I still don't do it because it helps me understand the problems that I'm trying to solve, helps me understand the business. So yeah. Some things I still do manually. But yeah, if it's a very small task, if it's like some data analysis or data entry or whatever, yeah, that can be outsourced with AI. But
Yeah.
obviously the real strategic work, especially as a product marketer, that's all me. That's all human brain right there. So
Exactly, and it should be. It's a really helpful. I like it as a tool. It's a tool. It's like a tool like in your toolbox. It's not you. It's not replacing you. It's not. It's just something that's really helpful, especially for tedious things that take an extensively long time. That wouldn't, it doesn't add anything to your life or your knowledge or help you by doing it yourself. It's just something that's saves time. So a
exactly.
lot of the time too, and that's something that's really helpful.
Yeah.
Well, I'm so sorry to cut it short, but we're already over time, so this is all the time we have, but this was a very lovely conversation, and that's when we go over time accidentally, that's, that's the best ones.
I lost track of time. I got
I didn't even I have to look at it, but, yeah, once it gets closer to 40 minutes, it'd be like but I really, really appreciate you coming on today. This was absolutely incredible, and I really appreciate all the knowledge that you have about all these different things. Especially, I don't get to talk about non-marketing related things often on the marketing podcast. Getting talked about photography and stuff. It's really nice.
well, well,
Mm.
thank you for having me. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much, and everyone that is watching or listening at home. Please don't forget to like and subscribe to hear more stories like this and be able to be a part of the discussion. Thank you so much.
Thank you.